All right, good evening, everyone. I'd like to call to order the joint meeting of the Cotati City Council and the successor agency to the former Cotati Community Redevelopment Agency for this Tuesday, August 22nd, 2023. So with that, may we please have a roll call?
Councilmember Rivers.
Here.
Councilmember Lemus.
Here.
Councilmember Ford.
Here.
Vice Mayor Sparks.
Here.
Mayor Harvey.
Here. Thank you for that. And if everyone would please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you for that. Then our next item is approval of the minutes and notice of waiving of reading of all resolutions and ordinances introduced and or adopted under this agenda. And we have one item, which is the meeting minutes from August 8th. Are there any questions or corrections? Not seeing any. All right. Then I will open this item up for public comment. Anybody wishing to speak on the minutes from August 8th's meeting? I'm not seeing anybody jump up or raise their hands or run to the podium. All right. Then, Kevin, could we ask our Zoom attendees if they would like to comment on the minutes?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Harvey. Speaking to our Zoom attendees, if you'd like to make a public comment, please use the raise hand icon. If you're dialing in, dial *9. Mayor Harvey, that'll end public comment.
Thank you for that. Then we will move on to, sorry, I would be looking for a motion for the minutes. Sorry, moving too fast.
I move to approve the minutes.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye?
Aye.
Any noes? Any abstentions? That passes unanimously. Then we will move on to announcements. So, meeting orientation for new attendees and viewers. In conformance with the Brown Act and the adopted City Council rules, the meeting agenda includes items labeled as action items, where the City Council will consider the item and citizens are afforded the opportunity to provide comments relevant to the item being discussed. The meeting agenda also includes a citizens' business item, which is the designated place on the agenda where citizens have the right to say whatever they wish. The City Council may or may not choose to respond to comments as the government code allows. However, if the City Council declines to respond, it should not be perceived as giving credence to or agreeing with any statements that the City Council or its members believe are incorrect, misinformed, or purposely biased. Next, Measure S supports police services, a variety of recreation programs for all ages, and the maintenance of our streets, parks, and public buildings. See details on the web at cotaticity.org. Next, like always, we'd love to hear from you, so please feel free to contact the city at 707-792-4600 or info@cotaticity.org. If you have a non-emergency issue after normal business hours, you can contact us at 707-792-4611. And of course, if you have an emergency, please contact 911. Continue to look for updates on the city's website and social media channels available on Facebook, Instagram, and Nixle. So our next item is proclamations, and we have a proclamation of the City Council of the City of Cotati declaring August 26th as Women's Equality Day. And I believe that Katie Gordon and Ofra Isler are here. Welcome. I will read the proclamation for you. Proclamation of the City Council of the City of Cotati declaring August 26, 2023 as Women's Equality Day. Whereas on August 26, 2023, we mark the 103rd anniversary of the enactment of the 19th Amendment to the United States Constitution, which secured the right to vote for women, and whereas in 1976, the Sonoma County Board of Supervisors established one of the first commissions on the status of women in the state of California with the purpose of promoting equal rights and opportunities that enhance the quality of life for all women and girls, and addressing issues of discrimination and prejudice that negatively affect women in Sonoma County. And whereas women now constitute nearly 50% of our workforce, the majority of the students in our colleges and graduate schools, and an increasing number of primary breadwinners. And whereas in 2016 through 2020, Sonoma County women as a whole earned approximately 88% of what men earned, and the earnings rate is significantly lower for women of color. And whereas women in Sonoma County are more likely than men to live below the federal poverty threshold, the greatest poverty rate among families is for those headed by single women caring for their own children. 1 in 5, 21% of households headed by single mothers with 1 to 2 minor children of their own in 2016 to 2020 lived on an income less than the federal poverty threshold. And whereas even with the gains women have made, work remains to be done in many areas that directly impact equal pay for equal work, including access to quality, affordable childcare, affordable housing, and comprehensive health care for women, including reproductive and mental health care. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed on this 22nd of August, 2023, by the City Council of the City of Cotati, that the City of Cotati proclaims August 26, 2023, as Women's Equality Day, marking the 103rd anniversary of the enactment of the 19th Amendment, celebrating the achievements of women and recommitting to realizing gender equality in Cotati. So I have this for you. And did you want to say a few words?
I would, thank you. Thank you for awarding us this proclamation. I am Commissioner Katie Gordon, representing District 2. Commissioner Ofer Eisler is here with me as well, representing District 3. And as you stated, August 26, 2023 marks the 103rd anniversary of the enactment of the 19th Amendment, securing the right to vote for women, at least on paper. We know that in practice, women of color, whether Black women in the South or immigrant women here in California, often have been unable to access that supposed right. I hope that city leaders will take this proclamation as a reminder to enact policy that aims to improve the lives of people most marginalized in our society. Black and brown folks, immigrants, low-income people, people with disabilities, queer and trans folks, people struggling with housing insecurity, and of course, women. Because a rising tide lifts all ships, and fighting for the liberation of those most marginalized is how we all get free. If the Sonoma County Commission on the Status of Women can ever be of service in helping enact policy or helping the city to get community input, please don't hesitate to reach out. Thank you.
Thank you. And did Isla want to say anything?
Oh,
No?
just
You're good?
everything
Okay.
she said.
Well, thank you for all the work you do. It's important to raise these issues, and I know you guys have been working very hard, so it's really a pleasure to give you this proclamation. And would you like a photo?
We certainly would.
All right.
Thank you so much.
We have our own photographer here.
Oh, great. Hold it open? Oh, that's okay. Thank you. Thank you.
For all your hard work.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for coming.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Thank you so much. Out there, huh? All right, thank you. Okay, so now we will move on to the next item, which is approval of the final agenda. Are there any changes to the agenda?
No proposed changes, Mayor.
Okay, and then since this is an action item, I will open this up for public comment. Anybody wishing to speak on the approval of the final agenda, please step forward or raise your hands, or not seeing anyone in the audience jumping forward. Kevin, could you please check with our attendees on Zoom?
Thank you, Mayor Harvey. Speaking to our Zoom attendees, if you'd like to make a public comment, please use the raise hand icon. Jenny Blaker, you have the floor.
Jenny, this is on approval of the final agenda. Okay, we will have an opportunity for that in just a couple minutes, maybe sooner. Okay? Thanks, Jenny. Okay.
And Mayor Harvey, that'll end public comment.
Thank you. Then the next item is citizens' business and public comment for the consent calendar items. Any member of the public wishing to speak to the council on any items listed on the consent calendar or any matters not listed on the agenda that are within the subject matter jurisdiction of the council may do so at this time. Pursuant to the Brown Act, the council is not allowed to consider issues or take action on any item not listed on the agenda during this period. Pursuant to City Council Policy 2021-01, comments of any member of the public are normally restricted to a total of 3 minutes in length per person for matters not on the agenda, and a total of 3 minutes per person in length for any and all items on the consent calendar. The mayor may extend the time limit for a reasonable time where a disability accommodation has been requested. To facilitate public comment, the clerk will alert speakers when there are 30 seconds remaining. So with that, let me see, I have speaker cards, but I don't believe that any are for citizens' business. Okay, I have none for citizens' business, so is there anyone wanting to speak on citizens' business or consent calendar items that is in the audience? Okay, not seeing anyone, and so looks like we have some hands on Zoom.
Yes, once again, Zoom attendees, please use the raise hand icon to make a public comment. Jenny Blaker, you have the floor.
Yes, thank you very much. Sorry about that.
That's okay, thank you.
Thank you. I wanted to speak to number 9C on the consent calendar, approval of annual stormwater support services agreement. It looks as though the MS4 stormwater permit does have a requirement for public participation and community engagement. And I submitted an email about this with a bit more detail, but really I just wanted to ask, it doesn't appear that this public participation and community engagement is in the discussion on the agenda or in the agenda package today. Is that something that the city organizes separately and reports on separately? I was just wondering, I know there has been some community involvement, including, you know, individuals who've been incredibly dedicated at cleaning up trash along the Laguna Channel, and one event in connection with the Creek Cleanup Week last September, but otherwise I'm not aware of the city doing that, and I wondered if you could speak to that. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Lori, you have the floor.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. I wanted to comment on continuing on with Jenny Blaker's on public participation. A few months ago, there was discussion online and everything about bringing back a youth council or some kind of way to engage the teens in the public process here in Cotati, and instead of having the honorary mayor program, and with having things like having groups from like one school come 1 month, and just to gauge. So I was wondering if there's been any progress on that. And I was on the Cotati Youth Council in 1975, so go Youth Council. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you for your comments.
Mayor Harvey, that'll end public comment.
Okay, thank you. Damien, I know you're well-versed in what's going on with our M4. If you could address those comments.
So this is the MS4 stormwater permit,
Right.
Yeah. So a lot of the public outreach, because stormwater is by its nature regional, we work primarily through our RWA to coordinate our outreach and messaging regionally, and so that's the majority of how we engage in public information. We also do have projects that come up from time to time, including like the interpretive panels. There's been comment with the Putnam Park project to potentially put some interpretive panels on that pathway. We do the annual, in coordination with all the other cities in the region and the county, the annual stormwater creek cleanup efforts. So those are some sort of local on the ground things, but generally a lot of it is sort of general public information that's distributed countywide, and we participate with the other cities on that regional effort, primarily through RRWA.
And Ben, did you want to add to that? Because I know from previously working with RRWA, they do engagement with the students also.
Yeah,
Russian River Watershed Association.
There you go. Russian River Watershed Association, right. That's our joint effort with most of the other jurisdictions in the county too. And one of its programs is the public information and outreach portion of MS4 support. So I think there are some excellent suggestions in the email we received about what some pieces of that ought to be that I will keep with me when we talk with RWA for sure.
Laura or Kay, did you have additional?
Yeah, I was just going to ask to define the acronym.
Okay, all right.
Thank you.
That's fine.
And I was just going to say, the Russian River Watershed Association has a number of outreach programs, and each year we get to look through them and ask if there's additional programs that we want to. Yeah.
Thank you for the list. And Damien, can you speak to Youth Council?
So in recent history, there had been an honorary mayor program. Obviously, COVID shut that down like it did a lot of things. And the schools, there was some discussion about how to maybe revive that, but in a more interactive form. It wasn't in the form of a youth council, but potentially engaging the youth and trying to find the school district was also very busy, and it was hard to engage, especially initially. So those conversations continue on how to best engage with students in a way that would bring them in to council meetings and hopefully do something constructive and productive for everybody, both the students and the city. So we were looking at an honorary mayor program, but sort of 2.0. So that's still on the sort of it's in the works, on the list of things. Yes.
Great, thank you for that. So then we've already had public comment on the consent calendar. Is there anyone wanting to pull any of the consent items? Seeing none, then I would be looking for a motion on the consent calendar.
I move to approve the consent calendar.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? That passes unanimously. And moving on here, direction on future agenda items. So Damien, a model ordinance was passed for zero waste Sonoma on the construction and demolition, so at some point it would be beneficial for all of us to look at that and get that in place for our city. I know they were trying to suggest that it be done by the end of the year, but a lot of the cities at the meeting said that that might not be doable. So we should get that at least on the list. So next is, yeah.
I just wanted to bring these three up again, just because I don't know exactly how long it takes to get on the agenda. I just want to make sure they do eventually, which is discussion of starting, or what it would take to start, a police oversight committee, citizen oversight committee, and then also term limits for us on city council, and then a library for Cotati. Thank you.
Okay, next we will move on to public hearings. And the first is second reading and adoption of an ordinance rezoning 7.83 acres of vacant land located at the northeast corner of the intersection of Alder Avenue and Gravenstein Highway, APNs 144-050-009 and 046-286-021 from Commercial Gravenstein Corridor Planned Unit Development, CGPUD, to Commercial Gravenstein Corridor, CGPA 2308. So do we have a staff report?
Thank you, Mayor Harvey, members of the council. For the record, my name is JP Harris. Can you hear me? And I'm a senior planner with the city of Cotati. This is the second reading of an ordinance, and move to adoption is the recommendation of staff. We first had the first reading in June 13th. It was a well-attended meeting, primarily by citizens that live in the Cotati cottages who were opposed to the rezoning in response largely to a project that the city is currently reviewing. At that meeting, they requested that the council either deny the rezoning or wait 60 days, or hold off for 60 days. The council chose to go ahead and move forward with the first reading, and then said don't come back for 60 days. So we are now back a little over 60 days from that time. I'll briefly just go over what's being proposed, and then discuss about briefly what happened in that 60 days. So we are proposing to rezone two properties. They're kind of connected. They were the former Cotati Village PUD project that was approved by the City Council. Next slide, please. And for an aerial, that is the property. The cottages are immediately to the north of the property, and you can see those off to the east, northeast, and Gilman Ranch to the south. I think everyone's familiar with the property. Next slide, please. And just repeating what Mayor had already said, this would rezone those particular parcels from Gravenstein Corridor Plan Unit Development, or CGPUD, to Commercial Gravenstein Corridor. Essentially what it does is it gets rid of the PUD overlay that was put on there. All those properties in the next slide, please. All the properties in that orange area are CG zoned, which is a commercial designation. It also allows for mixed use development. So you can have, well, nowadays, so you can have a predominantly residential project in a commercial area. And so it would, this would remove the PUD zoning, and then just go back to the CG commercial zoning that exists in that whole area. Next slide, please. The primary motivation came out of our housing element. We identified this site was one of several sites in the city that is a potential housing site that would help us in meeting our RENA numbers. And also, next slide, please. We specifically identified the need to rezone this parcel in Program 2-7, which is support development of proposed projects. So Program 2.2-7 of our recently adopted housing element, which was adopted back in March, specifically identifies that we will rezone this parcel back to just remove the unused PD designation. And the timeline for doing this was this year. And next slide. So in the last 60 days, we've had a lot of discussions with certain individuals, especially that are on the association board of the cottages. As well, we had 2 public meetings. One was an evening meeting, the other one was a late afternoon meeting. And I summarized the content of the meeting, and it's an exhibit in your packet. But these are the primary takeaways from it. First of all, the meetings were overwhelmingly focused on the proposed project that's coming. And I'm going to talk about the project only to let you know what happened in the 60 days, though there will be an opportunity for the council to deliberate on the project at a later date and hear all the nuances of the project. Primarily, what was the really overwhelming message that we received is that they really feel that they have a unique community out there, and they do. They're isolated out there, and so they all know one another. It is a real tight-knit community. Every time I'm out there, I can see the kids are playing, right in, I'm not going to say the street, but it's kind of like the driveway street. So it's a very active community. And the overwhelming, I would say that was the primary thing we heard, is just how unique their community is, how they want to try to preserve the uniqueness of it. And they were concerned about safety, especially with respect to additional traffic on Ford Lane, as well as Alder Lane, but primarily Ford Lane, which is the private little road that runs along the south end of the cottages development. It's the primary access in and out to all the units there. There's also parking along the side of that. We heard concerns about the density, especially because the former Cotati Village project, was only going to be 47, I think 47 units, maybe 53. 43 units, sorry, thank you. The current project is proposed to have 177 units, so it's a significantly different type of project. Those are also going to be single-family dwellings, small lot single-family dwellings, and the proposed project is going to be rental units, apartments. We also heard a lot about wanting to create a separation between the projects. They like their community. They want to keep it that way as much as possible. They don't want the 2 projects to blend together. There also is a lot of discussion about the easements, especially related to the parking easements, especially along Ford Lane. There's concerns about the mass of the buildings there and of the proposed buildings. And then there is definitely just a preference for the old Cotati Village project. That was a project that was part of the community that the residents felt that they were buying into when they bought their places. So I will say that we are definitely heard it, and we're already talking to the developer, the applicant for the Cotati Village project. They are already starting to address some of these issues, and I hope that people will find that we are working to address them, and there would be an opportunity for folks to take a look at some of the changes that are going to be made to the project. And I guess with that, I would say, next slide, is that we just recommend that we move forward with this rezoning, and that you move to adopt the ordinance. And I'm always available for questions and comments.
Ben?
Are there any more unused PD overlays out there in the city?
Yes, there's several. There's one at the top of Lasker Lane.
Are we going to queue them up to get them off of there?
We're going to have to.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Like before there's a project proposed.
Well, we thought about doing more than one, but it became pretty clear that any one of them is probably going to bring out the neighbors, and we're going to have to deal with them individually. But we were thinking about doing a citywide one, but as we discussed it, we're like, no, it's going to generate too much.
No, I agree. One at a time, it makes sense,
Yeah.
but not in conjunction with a project. It ought to be done prior to there being a project that people know, that is in the works already for that.
I concur, yeah.
A follow-on to that, are the other PUDs expired like this one is?
The PUD itself doesn't expire. That's why we have to take this action. But the underlying maps that are associated with some of them do. Like the Lasker Lane, for example, had a tentative map associated with it, and that one has since expired. So we're left with the PUD overlay, which we can't do anything with, and we probably couldn't even reapprove the map to be consistent with the PUD because of the way state law has changed. So we are going to have to take some of these actions. Yeah.
So when whatever document is expired that goes along with this PUD, there's no way to revive it. It's expired, and an applicant would have to start all over.
Yeah, no, they could reapply. Once the map expires,
Yeah.
they could reapply. And the expirations are built into state law. So you can only take so many actions to extend a map before you run out of your authority. However, they could reapply and for a new map. Of course, any new regulations would be applied to them at that time. So, that's why these have expiration dates, actually. Yeah, right. Some projects may not be valid under the new rules.
So that's sort of the rub. As time passes and things don't happen and things expired, there's all these hundreds of laws that keep happening that then if someone were to apply again, they have to fit within those current laws. They can't go back because they're expired. Is that fair?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Questions?
Yeah, I'm unclear on how this removal impacts the project, the impending project. I'm seeing them linked in from the comments that I've heard, it feels like they're linked, but it sounds like they are not. So can you just explain to me how they are or are not linked?
I guess they would be linked in that the project that's being designed is being designed to be consistent with the CG zoning that's in that general area. It's not being designed to go to the PUD that is the zoning overlay of the project. So that's how they're linked, is that the project that is currently under review is being designed to be consistent with the CG zoning and the general. Go ahead, say your comment.
So, and the general plan, and from a staff perspective, they're actually not linked. There's a lot of concern and direction that they're approving the PUD somehow creates some pathway for the Cotati Villages project or changes the process for the Cotati Villages product. From staff's perspective, the decisions are apples and oranges. We've already committed to making the rezoning decision as a part of the housing element, whereas the Cotati Village decision is a discretionary action that will be coming before the Planning Commission and needs its own CEQA analysis and a lot of other elements.
Does that answer? Does that help? Or are you still?
Go ahead. Let me
Okay.
think about how I want to rephrase that question. Go ahead.
Well, and as I understand it, in order for the PUD to be used, it would have to be a project that looks exactly like what's in the PUD. Exactly, because that's what a PUD is.
Right. I mean, that's the motivation for getting rid of the PUDs that are stale is they often, that's the only project that can be constructed is when a PUD overlay is created. And this one,
It's
that's not
very
it.
detailed.
Very specific.
Very specific,
Yeah.
down to specific buildings and specific,
Yeah.
amenities, specific, all kinds of very specific things. And my understanding is that no one, including the current property owner, is willing or able to come forward with that exact project. Is that correct?
Well, they tried for, I mean, they came forward, we actually re-entitled it several years ago. I think there was a strong attempt to get the project built and financed. I mean, you could ask the developer, but that just wasn't happening. And now there's a new project being proposed.
Okay. Kate, did you figure out what you wanted to reword as?
I guess, fundamentally, accepting or voting for or against the removal of the PUD does not impact the project one way or another. Is that correct?
No, it doesn't impact the project.
Mayor, I just want to make a comment about that. I think that's more or less right, but I want to be really precise about this, which is to say that right now the applicant can't go forward with the project.
Right.
It's inconsistent with the PD.
Right.
But we cannot, from a policy standpoint, maintain the existing PD. It's not feasible. The project cannot be built. There's underlying zoning. If the applicant, the property owner, desires to have the PD removed and repealed, and in particular, our housing element says that we're going to do it, the city is in a position where it basically cannot hold the property owner to the existing PD. That's the primary reason why staff is pursuing this action to repeal the PD, because it's infeasible at this time, and the property owner desires to proceed under the existing zoning.
Under the proposed zoning.
The base zoning, correct? There's a general plan designation for the site and also base zoning. The PD is an overlay on top of that.
Okay. So the base zoning is CG and the PUD laid on top of that, on that to say it's CG and here's exactly what it's going to look like.
Right.
Okay. All right. Yes.
And I know the answer to this question, but I just want to ask
Okay.
it to get on the record. The state HCD, Housing Authority, if we retain this planned unit development overlay that's unbuildable and is not going to happen ever, they see, if we don't get rid of the zoning, they'll see that as sort of obstructionist and sort of preventing any housing from being built on that site. Is that correct? That's how they would see that?
Yes, that is correct. That is how they would see that. I don't know how exactly that would play out, but
Yeah.
based on my experience and I think staff's experience, that's how it would be perceived by the powers that be at HCD.
Right. So that's part of why we have to remove the zoning is
Exactly.
that. Okay.
Well, to follow through on our commitment in the housing
Yeah.
element, yes.
Thank you.
But as a follow-on to that, what that means is if HCD sees that we're obstructing the ability to build housing, they can take over that. And
Well, what I think, I'm not certain exactly how it would play out, but what I think would happen is that HCD would decertify the city's housing element. It's not really the phrase used in the statutes, but you wouldn't have an approved housing element any longer. And what that would probably, they might even refer you to HCD, I'm sorry, the Attorney General. And it's possible that could lead to builder's remedy projects and things like that, particularly on this site.
And then also along with that, wasn't that the state taking over all of our planning? That
Yeah, one thing that can happen in housing element lawsuits, if the court finds that your housing element is not substantially compliant, you can lose the ability to issue any building permits. And so I believe that's what you're referring to. Not that they can take over your police power and zoning authority, but they can prevent you, the court can prevent you from issuing any building permits. And that has happened before. The city of Pleasanton was basically, didn't have an approved housing element, and in order to get them to move it along and adopt a housing element, the court prevented them from issuing any building permits, and that put a lot of pressure on the city to get its act together and adopt a housing element.
And so if we don't do this and they decertify our housing element, could a builder's remedy project that we don't have much say in be put on this property?
Quite possibly. Quite possibly that is the case. I haven't looked at that specifically on the site and thought about exactly how everything would play out, but based on my knowledge of the statutes, I believe that is possible.
Which, when that happens, we kind of lose a lot of say in what a project looks like and feels like, and what, any kind of negotiation about anything, the state kind of.
Right. Basically,
sin.
Developers can propose projects that are inconsistent with your general plan. There has to be a certain number of affordable units in the project, but they can propose anything. And so Santa Monica was dealing with that and was receiving applications for high-rise buildings in Santa Monica. I'm not sure how exactly that's played out. I haven't seen any news about that recently. But very, very significantly large projects that go way beyond what your general plan allows are possible.
Okay. Kay, did you think of what you were?
Yeah, I mean, fundamentally, what I'm hearing is, and what I want to make sure I'm differentiating between is, a vote to remove the PD is not the same thing as a vote for the project that's being proposed as it currently is. That those are two very separate things, correct?
Yes, that is correct. I think I felt the need to jump in because there is some relationship, but they are very different projects. This is really just about the existing zoning that's out there. What will happen is this PD zoning will be repealed and the project will be reviewed based on the existing underlying zoning, but the project will be subject to its own future review and approval process.
Okay. Then I have a question, because it keeps coming up, about the easement. Whose easement is it, and what exactly does that mean? I mean, typically an easement means you can drive over somebody's property to get to your property so you're not landlocked. Is this that kind of a thing?
There's several easements on this property. The one that seems to be generating the most conversation is a parking easement along Ford Lane. And the easement was created in 2007 when the developer owned both properties. 2003? 2003. The developer owned both properties and was representing both properties, and basically made an agreement that Cotati folks that live in the cottages would have access to a certain number of spaces within a certain area, and that's what that is. But there's also an easement of access and movement across Ford Lane. So it's shared parking and shared access on Ford Lane between the Cotati Village project, the old Cotati Village project, and the cottages.
And so is that the separation issue that's
That is part of the
asked?
separation issue,
Okay.
because they would be, the people in the village project would be driving on Ford Lane and would be accessing parking that is to be situated on Ford Lane, the way the project is presently designed. We're looking at ways to actually create that separation and maybe even get rid of the need for the easements entirely. They might be able to just deed them over, the parking and stuff. So, but we're looking at different ways of approaching that.
So the easement could be, if you will, I probably won't say it right, deeded over to the cottages rather than it being just an easement?
I don't think I would put it that way. There'd be a new agreement would have to
A
be
new
made.
agreement, Okay.
I think. you know.
Stronger than an easement?
I think it would probably have to be the same as the easement in terms of the existing property owner's rights would have to be maintained. The form that it takes might be different. So I wouldn't say it's stronger than an easement. It would be
Okay.
the same, just the location
Location.
and terms of it might be different.
Yeah.
The staff committed to me giving a legal opinion on some of the issues around the easement, but I haven't looked at it yet. I think the idea is that when the project comes in, I'll be asked to look at that sort of on the developer's dime or account. So once we've done that, we'll have more information.
So this easement, the picture's not up there anymore. So this easement is on the new project piece of property? Or is it kind of half on one, half? Where specifically is?
It's actually a good question. And we've been having this conversation of like, where exactly is that easement? Whose land is it on? Who has ownership of Ford Lane? And there's still questions that we have about exactly where it is.
Because it sounds like it was all good when it was considered one, but now that it's not one, therein is the rub.
When it was like
Well,
a
it was
sister project.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
was all one happy big project.
Yeah.
And now that, there's, a little divorce here, then there's a struggle over this strip is what I'm
Yeah.
hearing, and we don't quite yet know whose property it's on.
Well, yeah, I don't want to answer that totally
Right.
firm because it would require a survey, I think.
I was going to say, it probably needs to be surveyed
Yeah.
to see exactly what property it's on.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can I just clarify?
Yeah.
But our decision today will be on the easement, right?
No.
There's more information coming for that, that's being worked out with the developer and staff and with input. So today's just a zoning part of it.
That's right.
Okay.
Correct. That's all part of the project.
That's correct.
Okay, all right. Other questions? All right, so I will open this up for public comment at this point, and I do have some speaker cards, so I'll go through those, and then even if you didn't fill one, don't feel bad. We can still have people raise their hands. So Christopher Crenmora?
Good evening. My name is Christopher Crenmora. I own the house at 7833 Rivard Court in the Cotati Cottages. I'm here to speak on behalf of myself as well as the HOA. I'm the HOA president, have been for 20 years. Oh, God. Anyhow, there are multiple issues. One is safety with the new project. We understand that zoning is something that's probably going to happen. We're asking you to delay it until we can work out our easement issues. Part of the easement issue is that the 2003 easement that was recorded was changed in 2004 when half the houses were sold, and none of the homeowners got a choice of the change. The developer changed it on all three owners at the time and just recorded it. So there is questions, a lot of questions about the easements that are out there that we're trying to sort out. But on the project itself, way too dense. Already with the pizza place and Jane out there, we're having more parking issues than we've ever had before. That's on Alder as well as coming into our property. So, and all of our kids play on Ford Lane. We don't have sidewalks. We have little parks. The big field that's in the back that you see when you drive along is not ours. It's part of this new project. It could be taken away, then we have nothing out there. So just a little thought, our goal today is to delay more so that we can work out our easement issues and move forward with whatever project ends up out there. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Nick?
Good evening, Cotati Council. Thank you for speaking with us tonight. Thank you for listening to Cotati Cottages last time and delaying the issue, and for the city planners to coming out and visit and record our issues. Once again, we're asking to delay the rezoning while Cotati Cottages negotiates easements and potentially the incredible density increase from the original 40 homes to the 180. The residents of the cottages aren't against development, and we're supportive of the original plan. We understand that there's a need for an increase. We're just hoping to kind of limit what that increase is. The drastic changes do not consider the limits of the infrastructure, such as the poor condition of Alder Lane, or even worse, how small Ford Lane is. And the fact that it will now be used by anywhere from 250 to 350 additional vehicles. Sharing Ford Lane with this development must be addressed. It's too small. It was not designed originally with this development in mind. Children play out on Ford Lane, and parking is going to be a nightmare sharing these issues with hundreds of cars. It would have been challenging sharing with a sister neighborhood of 40 houses, but it's just dangerous with the increased traffic trying to now drop a maxed out apartment complex in the area instead. Parking easements and the disputes need to be resolved. There's been no offer to revisit a smaller number of condominiums like the surrounding properties that we've seen in some advanced plans. The zoning and the council's decision is what keeps any resolutions or negotiations in motion. Please vote no. Thank you.
Thank you. Michael?
Good evening, council members and staff. Thank you again very much for the opportunity, excuse me, to speak to you tonight. Got a frog in my throat.
It's okay.
My name is Mike Parks. I live at 7607 Eckmeyer Court, which I have since 2007. I first moved in there with my, great timing, first moved in there with my then girlfriend, now wife, and a roommate, so that we could afford to purchase a house there. Since then, our roommate moved out, and we have added an Olivia and a Juniper, and this is the area which we chose to raise our children. I really appreciate all of the outreach that was done with this project once the cottages made note of the urgency of this situation, and I want to thank the council members that came to our town hall meetings. I want to thank the city staff that diligently worked for outreach to come and learn about. And I think every single person that took the extra step learned something that they didn't know. And they learned a little bit more about why this is such an important property and such an important issue. The connection with the neighboring issue, we are joined at the hip. And we need to be unjoined at the hip, because the property that we joined up with, which was going to be a sister property, has now turned into a major development that throws the entire sway out of balance for our community and our ability to keep our community safe, as well as ability to support the working families that live there, struggle to pay the prices to live in this community, and the need for the parking and safety of the parking. When I say safety, I mean once you get outside of our development, there's no place to park. Lowe's, which is about a quarter-mile walk away through unlit streets in the county side, or you can take your life in your own hands and head down 116, either of which are unacceptable for a community like this. I'm here to urge you, I'm going to say this a couple times, to delay your vote. It has been listed in your housing element that this is to be done by the end of the year. So another 60 days is not a big deal for the city, but it is a major deal for us. There's tremendous inconsistency and confusion on all three sides as far as the easement is concerned. Those that you attended the town hall and the outreach meetings understand that. We lose a big retention of power, both the city and the cottages, once you change this. The state and the developer, the power swings their direction, and we lose a big mass of being able to divide these properties and retain safety for our community. So I again urge you to delay this vote for 60 more days so a lot of these questions can be filled in by all three attorneys. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for your comments. Oh, Elmer?
Good evening, City Council and members of the staff. We really do appreciate it, as Mike Parks said, in regards to you coming out and visiting our little community out there, our little island. My name is Elmer Glasser, and I live at 7618 Eckmeyer Court in Cotati. Like the other people who've come up here and spoke this evening and will follow me, I have my children come visit, and I have my grandchildren come visit, and we have small streets. And I like the word that you used to describe Ford Lane. It's a driveway. It's not a thoroughfare. It's not an arterial roadway by any stretch of the imagination. I'm here tonight to please and ask you individually to delay the vote. And the purpose to delay the vote is so that we can work with the developer, the current property owner, in a normal, reasonable, and prudent manner to work out the easement issue that ensures the safety for our children, for my grandchildren, and for the families that are already there. I know that there's been a lot of issues in regards to back and forth in regards to the development and the type of development, but at this point, at this venture, we again are just asking for a delay in the vote. There was so much information passed back and forth and a lot of what ifs and what should we do. And I think it's important to delay the time so that we can work the issues out in a better way. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Vincent?
Hello. So I also live at the cottages. I'm here to ask you to delay the vote. We know it's coming. We know the PUD is not sustainable. We know that. We know there's going to be a development which is not going to be like what we hoped that it was going to be with the PUD. Once this vote goes, once we take the PUD away, it takes away a lot of our negotiating power, and we have a lot of issues with the easements or recorded easements. As Chris pointed out, there's a lot of questions about all of these easements that are, which we believe are invalid. So I'm asking you guys to delay the vote until these easements are addressed so that we can have a clear vision of what is going to be coming. So please delay the vote. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Sharon?
Hi, how's everybody? Similar to last time, I'm not going to go into the details that my wonderful neighbors are going to share because you're going to hear that a lot. What I'm feeling tonight is this immense gratitude for the people that I get to live with, my little community, my hamlet, as I called it last time. Thank you so much for spending time with us. It meant the world to us. Noah, JP, our friends, you're our friends now. Your time and patience and compassion and understanding, this is what we've been wanting, is to be heard and for everyone to understand that to think these projects are not linked is naive. They are critically linked, so linked. So delaying this vote tonight, which is a brilliant idea, allows negotiating to happen, allows compromise to happen, allows people to modify so that there is safety and there is parking and we don't lose in these wonderful areas the essence of these areas. So I am here to support my people and ask you to please delay the vote so that we can continue to negotiate for very critical items that are going to have significant impacts on parking, children, safety, and frankly, our overall vibe, which Noah and JP and Sylvia have experienced. And I think if you want to come and experience it again, we welcome you. I live in the very first townhouse you see when you pull into the development. Knock on my door. I will walk around with you. Please come over, hang out with us, walk around and just experience our essence. I promise you, you will not regret delaying the vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Tom?
Good evening, Madam Mayor and council members. My name is Tom Monahan. I'm representing the applicant for the project. Thank you for your time this evening. And I just want to point out a couple of things. Since our last meeting 60 days ago, there has been quite a bit of progress and discussion with the Homeowners Association regarding this easement. But, you know, they are separate issues. There's a project that's going to be coming before you, and that's for the future. Right now, we're talking about the critical importance of removing this PUD overlay, which is really obsolete. And it is consistent, as you've heard from staff and the city attorney, it's consistent with the expectations that the council has set forth in the housing element. The issues about the easement, it's actually very clear. I think there's a lot of confusion, and I think the Homeowners Association may not understand it. We understand it. We own the property. The easement that's in question is our property. There is an agreement that was put in place 20 years ago, and it's been existing for 20 years. Recently, the Homeowners Association put forth a proposal to separate and create more separation and more safety considerations, as are their concerns. And there are concerns as well. And we're considering those. We got a proposal, I think Thursday or so of last week. We've asked our architect to look at it. We've made some preliminary changes. Those are all things that are associated with the project application, just like the heights of the building, the amount of parking spaces, where the parking spaces are, safety considerations, lighting. I mean, there's a tremendous amount of review that the project is going to go through. That's not tonight. Tonight is a very simple thing. They're talking about leverage. Well, this isn't really about leverage. Delay for us is expense. Further delay costs a lot of money. It also postpones our ability to move the project forward. So we're not in favor of a delay. We think the 60-day delay has given everyone an opportunity to understand the project and the issues better. We're certainly happy to work with staff and to work with the city's attorney to understand those matters better. But we really need to move forward.
30 seconds.
Thank you. We really need to move forward with the PUD tonight. That's really why we're here. We think delay is not the right answer. And the city is going to have ample opportunity to fully review the project and to deal with all of those various issues. So thank you for your time tonight. We encourage you to vote affirmatively to remove the PUD. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Eric?
Good evening, everybody. It's Eric. Public speaking is not my thing, so if my face is turning redder than my hair, that's a testament to how much I care about this issue. I've been a resident for about 10 years now, homeowner, 8007 Star Court. I've watched all the kids grow up. I plan to have kids of my own, and maybe they can come speak here one day and be a part of the community as much as I've been. We wouldn't be here if this issue wasn't forced. I think if, as he says, the easement is his property, that poses even more issues in my mind that have to be sussed out. On top of the issues we've already discussed, safety, traffic issues, volume, density, we all understand that this is not at my backyard situation, right? It's not a matter of if, it's when. But it's very important that we iron out those details before we move forward. So I encourage you to delay your vote. Approving the zone, changing the zone, relinquishes power to the developer in the state, and we lose what little grasp we have. So again, I encourage you to delay your vote. Thank you for your time.
Okay, is there anyone in the audience that did not fill out a speaker card that would like to speak on this item before I go to our Zoom attendees? I'm not seeing any hands. Okay. Can we go to our Zoom attendees?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Harvey. Speaking to our Zoom attendees, please use the raise hand icon to make a public comment. Riley Hurd, you have the floor.
Good evening, members of the council. My name is Riley Hurd. I'm a land use attorney. I specialize in California's state housing laws, and I also represent the applicant in this matter. I wanted to point out a few things for your consideration. First of all, this project on page 59 of the housing element has been identified to HCD as accommodating 177 units with an affirmative statement that it will be rezoned. So what that means, pursuant to the government code and other laws, many of which have come down from the state recently, is nothing can get in the way of that. Not an outdated PD, not zoning restrictions, or anything else. So this, assertion that leverage is on the table, that leverage actually went away when the housing element was adopted, and this project was held out to the state for 177 units as a pipeline project. Now, that being said, I personally have been working at the applicant's direction to resolve the easement and parking issues with the adjoining HOA, and we have made great strides in that. We're meeting again tomorrow internally about a new plan to address that. But tonight is only about one thing, and that's a rezoning. It's a rezoning the housing element already said would occur, and to some of the comments from the council, I think you've identified that PUD as a zoning mechanism is very difficult because it locks in a specific project, and then when things change, it's treated as a rezoning. Here, they simply seek to revert to the CG underlying zoning, and then the project itself will be considered completely separately at another hearing, including circulation, easements, and I hope to have resolved all of that before coming back before you with the project. So tonight is simply doing what the city council already said it would do in the housing element, and then we will come back with environmental review, a project merits review, and like I said, a plan set that addresses all the concerns you're hearing. And if we haven't, those concerns can absolutely be brought up at that time. So thank you very
30
much
seconds.
for your consideration. And my final comment is that when you list a project in the housing element as a pipeline project, it's a commitment not only that it will be rezoned, but that it will be approved and built in the planning cycle. That's a big deal. That takes a long time, and every delay is impactful. So we ask for you to vote affirmatively this evening. Thank you very much.
Okay.
There are no more hands, so Mayor Harvey, that'll end public comment.
Okay, thank you for that. Last chance. Anyone else in the audience? Not seeing anyone, then I will close the hearing on this and bring it back to the council and be looking to hear your thoughts. Ben?
Happy to start. First of all, I just want to say how impressed I am with the cottages as a community. I'm jealous. And my wife and I, when we were going door to door during campaign season, as we tend to do, were quite impressed by the cottages. And we met people, saw kids playing out there, and I think you do have a wonderful community there that I appreciate your wanting to preserve. And I hope the city staff and we will continue to work with you to make sure that happens. Zoning as a mechanism to preserve leverage makes me very nervous for some of the reasons that were laid out prior to public comment, in the risk that it puts the city in of subjecting us to, for instance, developers' remedy projects. So developers' remedy projects are, if we don't have an approved housing element, developers can come in and not only propose things that are at odds with everything the city says it wants, but have them approved by staff with no public process at all. So the potential risk of being perceived as obstructing housing development through an inappropriate mechanism, which holding on to an obsolete zoning is inappropriate, are pretty dramatic. I also don't believe that the perceived leverage that withholding the zoning change, I don't think that's there. All of the issues that the residents of the cottages have brought up, which are very real issues that I get, are all part of the project evaluation that will happen over the coming months. So safety, parking, easement disagreements, all of those are reasons for us to hold up approval of a project, and that will come up during the approval of the project. Given that we've, as a city, committed to the rezoning, I am not comfortable delaying further and putting us at risk of referral to HCD. Thanks.
Next. Laura?
Thank you. I just wanted to disclose that I did meet with some of the members of the Cotati Cottages HOA and heard some of their concerns. I wanted to thank you all for coming, and I know it takes a lot of courage if you're not used to public speaking to get up and state your piece. So thank you so much for coming, and I want you to know that I've heard all of your concerns. I'm going to be vigilant about making sure that they get addressed at the time when the project comes up for approval. I agree with Councilmember Ford that I think using the zoning as leverage is just not a wise way for us to go about it. We need to be impartial, and as so many of you stated, you're kind of thinking of this as if we hold up the zoning, that gives you more leverage, and I don't think that would be. If we were to do that for the reasons you've asked us to do it, I don't think the city could claim to be impartial about that. So at this time, I don't feel comfortable delaying any further with the planned unit development zoning removal, but I really want to see this development work out in a way that's going to work for everybody, and I'd be happy to come visit again and talk with any of you one-on-one about your concerns. Thank you.
Sylvia? Yeah, I just want to share that it was very insightful coming out to visit and going to your meeting and learning about all your concerns and interactions with the city and the developer and the history of the project itself. That was very insightful, and I learned a lot. And I'm encouraged, well, it sounds like, I'm encouraged that the city has been continuing to kind of work with the developer and the HOA. And it sounds like the developer and his attorney said that they're working on the easements and the parking. But I'm kind of sensing maybe from some people that may not be happening. So I'm wondering with staff, like, is there continued meetings to work on some of these things, even though, like we had heard previously, easements may not be a part of the discussion in this first rezoning, but is there continued conversations, including HOA and developer, on that? You know?
Oh yeah, almost daily, I would say. So yeah, and then there'll continue to be discussions.
I would just add, both the members of the community have taken the time to kind of draw out a diagram of some of their goals with their negotiations for how they may be able to achieve some separation to address some of the concerns that they brought up. And just today, the developer actually brought a sketch that seemed to really take that into consideration and was very reflective of some of the things that we've heard from the cottages. So from staff perspective, not only do we continue to have conversations, but both sides do seem to be really working towards providing details that would allow us to really understand what their goals would be if the development were to be approved, and also to address a lot of the things that have been brought up, like putting pen to paper. And we've been really appreciative because it's very helpful to us to try to bring something to you that tries to thread that needle.
Thank you. Well, I do want to see, like I said, ongoing communication. It sounds like staff that there is ongoing communication with the HOA and developer to, because there seems to still be questions about easements and parkings and safety of Ford Lane. So I understand also the dilemma of not approving the zoning, especially because of the housing element, and wanted to be in compliance so that we don't end up having some builder's remedy or other situations crop up in the future. So thank you very much for the information.
I also wanted to disclose that I also went and visited, and I want to thank the people who made the time for us and took us on that great walk and showed us your amazing community. My son and I had driven over there earlier too, just to check it out, and it still looks super friendly and warm. We also took a lot of notes and heard a lot of the concerns. It does, I'm pleased to hear that it sounds like you are being heard when it comes to the project, and am interested in continuing to hear your concerns and make sure they're being addressed and do whatever we can with the project. Regarding the rezoning, it really sounds to me like it's kind of already done, and delaying it again wouldn't really change your ability to negotiate, because even if we could do that and not be perceived as blocking affordable housing, which I hear you loud and clear that none of us want to do, and everyone recognizes that the 43 housing situation is probably, cannot happen. We all understand that. And fully acknowledging the difference between 43 and 177 is enormous, and I hear you. I have to agree with my colleagues that we still really need to, whether we approve it today or not, it's going to happen. And so it makes sense to me to do it now so that these negotiations with the HOA, with the state, or not negotiations, but discussions about the best way to manage all of these differing concerns can move forward and not be further delayed.
Okay. So is it true that we have till the end of the year to do this?
The program in the housing element identifies the end of 2023 as the deadline. Or the committed date to do it by. Okay. We will do it by that date.
Okay. And I sort of disagree with the comment that was made that said if we put it in the housing element, we must build it, because I've seen a few housing elements and we put things in there, and we, as the city, don't build houses. It's developers that build houses, and just because they say they're going to build something just like this, they don't always build it. So I sort of disagree a little bit with that comment that was made, because I've seen enough not get built.
I just want to say that I think I disagree with it too, although he said something about, this was Mr. Hurd,
right,
said something about pipeline projects requiring actually producing the units. Pipeline projects are very specific. HCD, there's a specific category. I don't believe there's any requirement that you produce units under the housing element law. It's basically a requirement to make adequate accommodation in your zoning to allow a developer to pursue a project. There are some situations where we report on the number of production under our projects, and that's evaluated in future housing element cycles, but I don't know that there actually is a production requirement, as Mr. Hurd indicated, but I'm sure if we're wrong, he'll let us know.
Yeah, well, and we've certainly, I think Ben can attest to this, we've certainly entitled plenty of projects that are still sitting there and not built. So that kind of, once we entitle it, that's kind of where our participation stops, and it's up to the developer to do it. And I would say quite often, at least what I've seen, is they don't build it. You know, we entitle it and they don't build it, but then we get slapped on the hands. So that is as it is. Are we close or are we far away? I hear two sides of this that, oh, well, the applicant says, oh, we're so close, we've done all this, and his attorney says we're so close, it's almost there. Yet I'm hearing the other audience say that they're starting to be heard, but they don't feel that it's close. Do you, staff, have any sense of, you know, are we this far apart still, or are we really this close, or where are we at? Do you know?
I would say in the last week, we've gotten closer. I don't know how to say we're this far or that close. It's too nebulous, but I'm seeing efforts on both sides to come up with solutions, as opposed to just absolute, you know, I don't want anything out there. And so anyway, I feel really good that we're going to be able to address a lot of the concerns that we heard. Now, clearly the project is coming of some type, you know, and so it's not like it's going to remain an empty field out there. And there's some people that are never going to like it other than as a field. And there's nothing I can do about that. But in terms of where the project issues, I think we're making pretty good progress. And we still have a substantial amount of our own review to do, and to work through some CEQA stuff also. So it's not like we're ready to come to, you know, next week or next month to bring this project forward. There's still work that has to be done, for sure.
And it was implied that no work can be done unless we do this. And I'm sensing from what you're saying is that work can still be done, and progress can be made and agreements can be made. We're not really stopping any work from being done.
No. Okay. I do really think we at staff see this rezoning and the project as two different issues. I mean, any project could come forward under CG zoning. It's not to bring this project forward. So no, the project is to us on its own path.
Okay.
That's different, and work still has to be done on that.
Okay. So given that, I guess I don't necessarily agree that the project can't keep moving down its path, because it was said that it couldn't, but it feels like it can. It just can't be, I don't know what the right terminology would be. It couldn't be finalized by you until this happens, right? Is that fair?
I guess. I think that's fair. I want to make sure I understood what you were saying, but
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm of the thought that we have till the end of the year, and I don't mind spending a little bit more time. So I'm, you know, not necessarily where you guys are at, but if negotiations are happening and we can get closer and we still have time, that's kind of where I'm at.
Yeah. Excellent. What I heard JP say was that progress was made in the last week or something, yet we had delayed it for 60 days. So I'm wondering what happened with all the other time. It just seems...
I wouldn't say that the only progress has been made in the last week. Just in the last week, I've seen tremendous progress, and I think a lot of it has been because of, you know, the meetings that we did have. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I just want to clarify, because I was under the impression that delaying it 60 days would delay the project, but you're saying that's not the case?
I don't.
Okay, let me rephrase. So I thought I heard that if we were to delay another 60 days on the rezoning, that would cause the project's development to be delayed an additional 60 days as well. Is that accurate or inaccurate?
At this point, it would not be accurate to say that delaying it would delay the project. There still is work that needs to be done with the project. But, what is it, August, September, October? That's all I can say.
I would just add, right now, the current zoning is inconsistent with any project that's going to be built or could be built on this site. So having that uncertainty hang over any pending development does affect the review of the project. It is not a one-to-one delay, like your request, but it adds uncertainty into our process and what would happen when we take it forward for a decision.
I'm sorry, will you repeat the last piece you just said?
So it adds uncertainty in the decision-making process because...
of the city?
Correct.
Of who?
The project decision-making process. So right now, the rezoning has already been decided. We're committed to do it in the housing element. And the project that is following, that we've identified as a pipeline project in the housing element, cannot go forward while that rezoning is in place, or that current zoning district's in place. So that uncertainty and that lack of consistency in the land use regulations and the project that we are reviewing adds uncertainty and complexity to the review. If we were then to delay, one way to do it would be we could bundle the rezoning and the project together and bring them forward as one item, but that would add another layer of decision-making complexity and also legal challenges to have to be untangled. There is some elements of housing law interpretation that said this PD zoning is irrelevant, and we frankly should move forward regardless of whether the rezoning occurs. That's one interpretation. I don't know that that's accurate, but that has been conveyed. So there's so much unsettled housing law combined with the commitments we've already made and decided, combined with the things we're trying to address and articulate through the project review. Having these separated greatly clarifies the decision-making process moving forward.
Yeah, I'm not suggesting combining them. I'm just trying to see how they're linked. So he was nodding his head. Can he answer or no?
I hate to do this, but can we take a couple-minute break? And then we can do that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, could we get everyone to take their seat, please? So the last question on the floor was whether or not we wanted to let the public speak again. So I would like a raise of hands of folks that would like to let us to open the public hearing back up again, let people speak or not. Sure. Yeah. Okay. All right. So we have at least 3. So I will open it back up again. And who would like to speak? Okay.
Can I reiterate the question?
Sure.
Yeah. The question that I had was, oh no, I've forgotten what my question was. Was about how so that the project would be delayed if we were to delay the rezoning, and how is that true? Like, I just would like to understand how that's true for you.
Yes, delay definitely is a problem for the project. It also, we have to remember we've already had 60 days of delay associated with the last ask from the Homeowners Association, and it's been productive. It's a civil matter. The issue that's really before us with regard to this easement is a very narrow civil matter. The rest of the issues that they're concerned about are project merits. How does the project interface? We're very sensitive to that. We're trying to create 2 communities that can live very closely together in close proximity with safety. The issue that happened last week was that HOA expressed some different concerns to us about that. The last 60 days produced those concerns, like a workshop or what have you. We've gone back to our architect and asked them to change it. We've just gotten those literally today from our architect. We shared them with staff today. I think staff can confirm. Those are, it's a mutual effort to try to work it out. We have plenty of time to do that. A delay also impacts our financing. So right now we're on schedule to start construction on this project next spring. And that predicates this hearing today and then ultimately the project hearing, which will have plenty of opportunity to adjust the project, and then ultimately to begin construction, which is the ultimate objective. Interest rates, cost of carry costs, financing, uncertainty, all of those issues really do impact us in a very significant way. The last 60-day delay was a big setback for us. We're going to come to a solution, and it's probably going to be, a better project as a result of that. But that's the give and take that happens at the project level, not at this PUD level. And, I understand it's a tough choice, for the council. We respect that. But we do want to move the process forward, and I don't think the council loses. Leverage is kind of a weird term, actually. To me, it feels like a headlock. I don't think it's fair. It's a civil matter. It's between 2 property owners. And I think the council has already indicated, an obligation and an expectation to us and the HCD and all other parties that we'll move this process forward, swiftly. So, again, we do ask you to affirmatively remove the PUD and allow us to move this process forward. Is that a good answer or adequate?
I guess I heard the main concern is financial, that it would impact you financially if it was delayed another 60 days.
Yeah, financial uncertainty. There's a lot of other incidental impacts.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, thanks.
Yes.
Thank you, Council. Thank you for the opportunity to speak again. Again, my name is Mike Parks. I will speak to represent the cottages and the 2 additional, I am so sorry. I forgot my Sergeant of Arms, Olivia. The key points, and I think maybe I would agree that the word leverage is not accurate. I think clarity would be the accurate word for this. We have already seen that there is a fair amount of confusion, that there is some uncertainty on what this is actually going to mean. It's been vacant for 20 years. 2 more months is not going to do anybody in. All it's going to do is to allow for clarity so that when you place that vote, you are much more certain of the absolutes. You can do research on yourself. Every one of you asked a question tonight that didn't quite get a clear answer. So I would allow the attorneys to chime in and divide the lines of what is and what isn't. I would also allow us, the community, an opportunity to see this new submittal, which we have not seen yet. So the reference towards there's been steps towards the middle, the last communication that we received was nowhere a step towards the middle. It consisted of bullying and threats. If we did not comply, this is what would happen. So if there has been any sort of step in our direction with our proposals that we ran through the city, we'd like to see them first and have an opportunity. I think 60 days is a perfect number for us to be able to see that and judge that there actually has been a step in our direction. Because up until, for the community's sake, there has been zero in our direction. So clarity, so that we know exactly what's going on in this situation and what it means to everybody involved. I certainly understand the bottom line of a corporation, but I also understand a community and its safety as well as its understanding of its property lines. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, we have someone on Zoom.
Thank you, Mayor Harvey. Once again, Zoom attendees, please use the raise hand icon to make a public comment. Riley Hurd, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. I'll be very brief. Again, members of the council. It's absolute black letter law that the zoning is required to be vertically consistent with the general plan, which includes the housing element. If the zoning, which is the PUD here, does not allow for 177 units as identified in the housing element, it must be changed or it must be disregarded. So somehow this is being held out as the panacea for the civil easement issues and the like, but this is required. And this is not related to the easement issues. Just so you know, I did, right after the comments were made this evening, provide some citations to your city attorney regarding pipeline projects. I stand by the comments made in that regard. But I think it's really important to just identify that the housing element says this rezoning is going to take place. It has to take place. It's just reverting to the base zoning. And the project is going to address all of this. And it could take 60 days, could take 90, it could take more. We are going to work on it, but it can't be tied to something that the city has already committed to doing. So I entitle projects all throughout the state. The capital markets are in disarray. I'm terrified for the annual progress reports for these different jurisdictions to HCD, because the housing's not going to get built. And then that implicates all types of other laws, ranging from SB 35 to the builder's remedy to all types of things. Here you got an applicant that's working hand in hand with the city to try to follow a rather traditional path for the project. And I hope that that's encouraged, and we will continue to work with the HOA and figure it out. It's in the interest of both properties. But the rezoning needs to occur this evening. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
There are no further hands, Mayor Harvey. That'll end public comment.
Okay, then I will bring it back to the council, close the public hearing on this. Yes, Ben.
I just want to reiterate that while I'm very sympathetic to the concerns about the project, it's inappropriate to use the rezoning as a proxy for that conversation. The project has to be where we talk about the project issues. And it is not just the end of the year deadline. Like, people can report us to HCD for taking actions that delay housing, and when we're not even, nobody has made a pro keep the PD zoning overlay comment all night. So to use the zoning as a proxy for project issues, I think puts us in a really bad position. and I don't want to see us go down that road. I completely get the issues. Like I said, I really want to see the cottages figure out how to preserve the community they have, and putting the city at risk, the whole city at risk, by delaying the zoning is inappropriate. Thanks.
Okay, Laura, Sylvia? No comments? No? Okay, then all we have left is a motion and a vote.
I'd be happy to make the motion.
Okay.
I move an ordinance of the City Council rezoning 7.54 acres located northeast intersection of Gravenstein Highway and Alder Avenue from commercial Gravenstein corridor. Oh, I'm sorry, I think I'm reading the old one. Yeah, sorry. I don't want to move that one. Pardon me, let me find the right one unless somebody has it.
This one? Is it this?
Well, I could just read the one there, sure. I'll move an ordinance rezoning 7.83 acres of vacant land located in the northeast corner of the intersection of Alder Avenue, Gravenstein Highway, APNs 144050009 and 046286021, from commercial Gravenstein corridor planned unit development to commercial Gravenstein corridor.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Can we do a roll call vote on this?
Councilmember Rivers.
Aye.
Councilmember Lemus.
No.
Councilmember Ford.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Sparks.
Yes.
Mayor Harvey.
No. So it passes 3-2. So, all right. Then we will move on to the next item, which is the master fee schedule update. You have a staff report on that?
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. So I will, I'll keep it pretty brief. Most of the changes are already approved changes, so to speak. There a lot of the update that you see in there, and I apologize that it can look a little messy, but hopefully the subsequent emails help clarify that for everybody. But the fee schedule is allowed to update annually by the Consumer Price Index, so the CPI number, and that has been sort of happening. The reason why this is before you tonight is because there's a couple changes that go beyond just the simple CPI change. So one is, and this is all outlined in the staff report, but one is the mechanical, electrical, plumbing permit. It's a new category of fee was added, just to change the way those are calculated. A tree replacement in lieu fee. We'd already been charging that through a separate mechanism, but we felt it was more appropriate to be consolidated into a single fee schedule, so it's available like all of our other fees in a single location. The downtown specific plan recovery fee, again, this was separately adopted, but it didn't exist in the schedule, so we're pulling it into the schedule. So that's the purpose of a consolidated fee schedule. The ADU bed tax and traffic impact fees, and so this is for ADUs, the so-called larger ADUs over 750 square feet that impact fees are allowed to be charged for. So rather than make it implicit, we thought it'd be better to be explicit in terms of what those fees are, so if someone comes in to develop, it's right there in black and white for them. In the recreation world, we removed medium events from permit options because it's basically the same size as small events, so it's an unneeded category of fee. We changed camp fees from weekly to daily because of the different variations of camps. Some just aren't week-long camps, some are daily. They're just there for a couple days, and so it just helped better align with the kind of camps that we actually run. In addition to the ability for a discount for longer-term classroom rentals. We updated the program cancellation policy to allow for more time to fill out spaces for those who cancel. Too close, basically they cancel immediately before the date and we don't have time to refill the space. And then I just mentioned this earlier, but long-term class rentals. So a discount to encourage return customers or longer term rentals. And most of the fees have a recovery level of 100%. In other words, full recovery. And we recommend we continue that, of course, except for the ones that we've previously spoken about in prior iterations that do have some subsidy already built into them. Some fees like EV charging costs and that sort of thing. So that's pretty much it at a high level, but I'd be happy to answer any questions about it.
Thank you. I had a question. Thing that concerned me most on this was on the tree removal without a permit penalty. It used to be in the old one 2 times the standard removal fee plus 2 times the replacement value, which could be, I guess I need clarification. I thought that could be quite a lot if it was a valuable tree. I mean, all trees are valuable, but anyway. But now the new fee, 2 times removal application fee plus 2 times in lieu fee, which seems to me to be $354. And I'm just concerned that I want a little more information about that, because anybody could cut down any tree they want and only have to pay a $350 fee penalty.
So the number of in lieu trees required to be planted is based on the size of the tree in the ordinance, and so that fee is not, when you see the penalty, you shouldn't think of it as one tree, because they could have to pay that in lieu fee per tree, and it could be a large number of trees that's required because the tree they cut down without a permit was large.
Well, if they did, could I have a little more specificity about that? If they did, sorry to put you on the spot. I didn't get a chance to see all this until this afternoon because I was having trouble reading it. But if it was a big mature tree, how many, just ballpark figure, how many?
Yeah, so I've never processed a tree removal permit in Cotati, and it's my goal as the director that I don't do that. But I will say that it's my understanding it may be 1 tree per 6 inches of growth.
6 inches of
growth.
Diameter?
Circumference.
Okay, because that'd be a lot if you're.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So for every 6 inches, you're required to plant 1 tree. So then if you removed a 24-inch redwood, for example, that'd be 4 trees. And then if it's doubled because of the penalty.
That's still way less than the value of a tree.
Absolutely,
tree.
correct.
Way less.
Yeah,
So
yes.
we're reducing the fee here.
I would say
lot.
it's making it more realistic. There's also some elements of, just to be frank with you, our tree removal ordinance is very aspirational and challenging to implement. And so we're trying to do something that's more direct and able to be implemented based on the challenging language of the ordinance.
Okay. I'd be very much in favor of trying to make it more easy to implement, but I am still concerned about not having enough of a disincentive to remove a tree that maybe somebody would have trouble getting approval to remove.
Totally valid point. In my experience, most people who make the decision are usually unaware, or definitely are unaware of whatever potential penalties there may be.
Maybe we need more outreach. I'm not sure how to accomplish that, but I see what you mean. The disincentive is only a disincentive if people are aware of it.
Correct. Correct.
Yes. To that point, I have seen trees taken down at 7 a.m. on a Sunday morning, and that makes me suspect people did know they weren't supposed to be doing it. So I think there are plenty of people out there who know and don't want to bother with the tree permit, and I think it's there may also be some of the case you talk about. I'm a little worried about how along the same issue that the schedule just says tree replacement in lieu fee each $125, so that's $125 for each tree they were supposed to plant that didn't.
Yeah, I'm not prepared to answer specifics on this.
Yeah, no, it's fine. I just want to, I'm afraid that the that the new schedule is not clear because the in lieu fee is, it says right above $125, and then the penalty is 2 times removal plus 2 times in lieu fee, which is stated as $125. So I'd like to see that line revisited as well. That's all. I'm just agreeing with Vice Mayor Sparks that one worries me a little.
The in lieu, I'm sorry, Councilmember Ford, just to make sure I'm clear on that, the in lieu fee, that line is what you're talking about?
The penalty for removal without
Oh, the penalty
permit.
line, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what we're both concerned about, I think.
Right. I think part of the challenge with implementation was the replacement value language. And what does that mean? And that just means a long argument with someone.
I question the legality of our replacement value language requirements in the ordinance, frankly. It directs us to charge them for 10 years of maintenance on the life of the tree. I don't know that that's enforceable or legal. And so I was trying to come up with something that would pass the legal muster. But I absolutely understand the concern. What I think is going to be is a very challenging process to thread this needle on this specific fee. So if the council has concerns about it, what I would encourage them to do would be to leave that fee as it is, vote to adopt the updated schedule, and staff will try to work in this topic back into our workload at some point. It's important to get some of the other fees in place, and we've been struggling with this one, frankly, since I was employed here, and there's a lot of questions about the ordinance.
Yeah, it sounds like the ordinance needs to be revisited, and maybe along with the ordinance, this could be addressed and updated. Is that fair?
That's fair, but I would say updating a tree removal ordinance is a very challenging process in my experience.
Perhaps we could approve this without the tree changes and come back with, I'd be okay with simplifying it and getting rid of the problematic thing. I'd just like to see the fee higher. Yeah.
Or council could give direction as to a fee that they think would be appropriate as a penalty. That staff would love that.
I would love for staff to research what happens in other communities.
Well, because aren't there legalities around what we can charge? But we can't just say, oh, well, if you cut down a tree, you're going to have a penalty of $50,000. We can't just pull it
Correct. It's a very challenging issue. Yeah. But like, if, for example, if $500 seems to be a fee that the council finds is appropriate, that I would be comfortable with the legality of that. A number higher than that, I would need research.
At this point, it seems like we've found a juicy policy issue that probably should go on an agenda in the future with some, so the public could participate in it. I think staff's intent was just to make well, that assumes it comes back at some point. But I think the intention was just to do a simple change to the master fee schedule, and I'm not sure that
I'm just
you can
curious.
at this point.
Can I ask a question? Do we check comparisons like other cities or other jurisdictions? We did? Okay.
Yeah, every city is a little different. Most cities require replacement at a one tree per 6 inches of growth. The penalties are generally, it's usually 2 times the replacement cost is usually it, but there's variations in all of them.
And is that handled via code enforcement? Same process?
Correct.
Okay. So to answer your question, Ben, it would require then that someone watching that person cut that tree down at 7 a.m. on a Sunday morning would be willing to turn that person in, and then it would get looked into. Okay, so what is your pleasure? To leave that one alone? Yeah.
Well, okay. I'd propose keeping the penalty for removal without permit as it was previously, with maybe add in parentheses max $1,000, something that just caps the discussion over, or max 1,500, because that would get over, because the city staff review cost is $733 for a sizable tree, so double that is getting getting up to 1,500 already. So I would just add a max 1,500 to try to save staff long arguments over larger trees.
That's great. Having a hard number to point to is very helpful.
I'd just like, I'd like to just kind of have some time to compare other cities and stuff, and maybe come back with that, but not do a ton of work. Just maybe give me some time to look at it.
So just leave it as it is for now. I mean, in the old fee schedule, we'll leave that.
Yeah, and then to bring it back soon. Okay.
Okay, so that's the suggestion for right now. Okay, so we're done asking our questions. I will open this up for public comment. Anyone wishing to speak on this item, please come forward. I am not seeing our audience jump up or run forward or wave their hand. So we can go to the Zoom attendees.
All right, thank you, Mayor Harvey. Once again, Zoom attendees, please use the raise hand icon to make a public comment. Neil Hancock, you have the floor.
Yes, good evening. I think I'm unmuted. And I just wanted to ask some questions about again, the electric vehicle charging permits. First of all, it seems that, again, the water heater and the residential, which are similar circuits, though they've been designated slightly differently here, have a different fee. The other question I've really got is that for designated HOAs, multifamily organizations, are they in Cotati designated as commercial? So would places like Tower Apartments, Roblon Manor, would they attract the commercial fee or the residential fee if they were to put in electric vehicle charging points? So that's my question. Thank you.
Thank you for that.
And Mayor Harvey, that'll end public comment.
Okay, so Noah, are you prepared to answer those questions?
So apartments are designated as commercial developments in the building code. I'm trying to look at the fees specifically. It's been a while since I reviewed this. And I will speak to the electric vehicle charging. There was a direction, actually, and I believe on the water heaters, there was direction to staff to subsidize those fees. And I could be mistaken, but it's also a possibility that there's direction from the state regarding maximum fees for electric vehicle charging. And then there is a little bit more work with the water heater, as there's electrical and plumbing work that has to be done when you install a water heater. So the inspection process is slightly different, although the electrical circuit can be similar.
Okay. Yes.
I may be reading this wrong, but for the re-roofing, it's page 11. I wanted to just ask, I'm seeing a residential re-roof is $469, but a minor repair is $542. Is that correct? A minor repair is more than a re-roof?
It potentially could be. Yes, that is how the base fee are set up.
Do you know what the logic is behind that?
Well, I think it's the minor repair could be much broader in what you're actually asking for. There could be a lot more inspections that are required, more steps, which a roof is very defined number of inspections. That's really what we're charging for, is how much work do we have to do to review your plans, which for a roof, you don't even need plans.
Right.
And then how many inspections, how many times we have to go out to check the building code requirements were met. Minor repair it's a nebulous application. You can use that for a lot of different things, some of which would require more plans, or actually to have some plans, sometimes none, and then sometimes you would require more visits. And one of the things that's unique about building permits compared to other applications is once you pay your fee and it's issued, there's no more opportunity for us to kind of recoup any fees or cost. And so we have to make sure we cover all of our costs up front.
Okay. it was just surprising to me that a minor repair would require more work than a re-roof, but, okay, thank you.
You know, I would also add too that when this was all done, it was based on a cost study initially, but certain fees were adjusted, like EV chargers, for example, were adjusted down because the council felt that they wanted to encourage that and not discourage it by the fee structure. As my recollection, and maybe Noah can correct me if I'm wrong on this, but the residential, in particular the residential re-roof permit, was lowered below the actual cost in the study because we were trying to encourage compliance so that people would actually get a permit rather than just re-roofing their house.
And that is correct.
Yeah.
Okay, and there's less concern about the minor repairs?
Yeah, well, just because roofing is such a common repair that's needed on homes.
Right.
And it's kind of a formulaic business from the construction standpoint, and it's frankly very common for people to do those without permits.
Yeah.
And so.
Well, that's why, okay. Yeah, no, that's why it's surprising to me that if we're trying to encourage people to do it, that it's more expensive than the one that they would have to do it for. Right? Like if you're going to re-roof, typically you're like hiring a contractor and they're going to get a permit, right? Whereas if you're doing your own minor repairs, you might just do it yourself and then not get a permit. No?
Well, I'm saying we're trying to incentivize both the homeowners and the contractors on the re-roofs by keeping the fee. And this would be like a 2-year-ago discussion where the council provided direction to subsidize that fee and reduce it slightly. So I'd have to go back to review that.
No, it's okay. I get why you would do it for a re-roof. I don't understand why you wouldn't also do it for minor repairs if the idea is to incentivize people to get the permits and not just do it without it. But it's fine. Thank you.
And I guess I'd say no, most reputable re-roofers do get a permit for their clients?
Yes. I've just, frankly, I've been fairly surprised at the level of work that's been undertaken without building permits. And almost the attitude of both contractors and homeowners with regards to the need for them.
Well, I think it was said earlier by the Vice Mayor, I think maybe this is another opportunity area for education. Education to, the building trades, that these are kind of, you need permits for these things, because typically people will hire a licensed contractor to do a lot of these things. So that's kind of the audience that I think maybe we need to direct the education to.
I can't find it in the schedule right now, but there is a penalty for performing work without a license, right? So without a permit, I mean. So that is, I assume that is set high enough to be a sufficient deterrent. I mean, the folks in the trades all know they need permits for this stuff. There's nobody who doesn't know they need a permit. Yeah. So it's not 2 times the permit fee. So maybe we ought to have a discussion about whether that needs to be 3 times or something, because it's a cost-benefit analysis to them. If they're just figuring chances less than half I'll get caught, I'll just do it, then we need to up the fee.
And is that against the contractor or the homeowner?
It's both. They're both violating the code. And I think the contractor, they're putting their license at risk by not getting permits and doing work. So it's not really the roofing contractors generally that are doing that. It's some folks that maybe learn the trades from someone else and don't have a license.
Yeah, our enforcement mechanisms primarily go after the homeowners because that's where we have the ability to, like, they own a property, they're in town, contractors come and go, and it's been challenging to get the contractor state license board to get on the side of jurisdictions with raising the level of importance of permitting, in my experience.
Okay, homeowner question. Is it, I mean, this is just the fee schedule, but is there a place you can go on the website, it's like, for example, and read what the difference is between a minor repair and a re-roof, so that if we're responsible for it and the contractor says, you don't need a permit, that we can be sure that that's accurate?
No, not to the, so a roof always needs a permit. No, every re-roof needs a permit every time. There's no question about that. A minor repair, if you're hiring someone, 90% of the time you're going to need a permit for that too. Siding replacement needs a permit. Flooring does not. Cabinets do not. Concrete flat work actually does not need a building permit. Almost every other repair you're going to do. The building code actually says if you patch a hole in your drywall, you're supposed to get a permit for that. Just to be frank. I mean, So there's a lot of gradation, right? Because that's
I guess we'll have to stop punching holes in the walls.
So I mean, because it's your fire protection, right? And so the idea is to make sure that it is fully fired. But there's common sense that has to be injected into this process as well. But so we hope that we do have some information on the building code that talks about things you can do without a permit. Build a shed up to 10 by 12, up to 12 feet tall, or sorry, 10 feet. Yeah, up to 12 feet tall, you can do that without a permit. But there's nothing that's definitive, and even as soon as you put that information out, I had a call last week about someone who was telling me how it was unclear, and it's frustrated. So we endeavor to be as clear and educational as we can be, and it's a challenge.
When in doubt, ask.
Exactly. I mean, that's exactly right.
And
that's why I
maybe
encourage
that's the
everyone.
message,
Yeah.
when in doubt, ask.
Yeah.
As simple as that.
Kind of like call before you dig.
Kind of, yeah.
And we answer our phone. I mean, we're very available in the
Yeah.
development department. And I tell people we're the easiest department in the county to get things issued. And we are very straightforward and very easy, and we do everything we can to get them over the counter.
I can attest to that. Any other questions? All right. So we had public comment on this. We've asked questions. We've talked. What is your pleasure on this item? A motion would be nice.
I move that we adopt a resolution updating the master fee schedule and charges for city services and repealing previously adopted or conflicting fees and charges for such services with the exception of the tree removal penalty fee to be addressed at a future date.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Then that passes unanimously. Good job. So we will now move to our regular agenda. And the first item on that is August 2023 financial update, report for summary of revenue sources, cash, and investments. I'm going to go out on a limb here and guess that this is going to be Angela.
Well, I was going to let Damien cover it.
Oh, Damien.
So, good evening, Mayor, council members, members of the public, remote and in person. So I'm Angela Corder, the Director of Administrative Services. And tonight I want to present to you the fiscal year-end budget to actual review for 2022-23. This is the final quarterly report for the last fiscal year and will be all historical data through 6/30/2023. So we hope to bring you the Q1 report for this fiscal year, 23-24, in October. That's our goal. So next slide, please. Don't have my clicker. So included within the presentation, we will cover the citywide financial overview, then drill down into the general fund and the enterprise funds for water and wastewater. Lastly, covering the cash and investments portfolio. So starting off on the next slide, and then we're going to dig into the citywide. Okay. So overall revenues and expenses are mostly on target. Note that the expenses are inclusive of those accrued balances related to the fiscal year through August 12th. So that means we might receive invoices that are for activity and function. So we did a lot of street work during June, and so we had lots of things moving, and we didn't receive invoices until after the end, after 6:30, so we accrue all those and kind of book those as expenses. So a majority of those are included in here. We still have a few trickling in, as well as revenues as well. So we have a significant revenue, which is our sales tax, which we've kind of built in an estimate of around, say, 419,000 was our estimate for our June final payment for sales tax. So really that's the piece of the general fund. The rest of the funds are pretty much standalone, and so we don't have a lot of accrued pieces that go into those, and so there aren't significant adjustments in those outside of the capital projects. So we have the changes in timing for the capital projects, which create different funding sources going into those, which relate to those changes in the budget to actual for those funds. Other adjustments and transfers are subject to true up for fiscal year end. So maybe we get some more of the grant money actually comes in that we planned on in time to count it as cash. And so we'll end up booking those and pushing back some more money to the general fund that we used for those projects. We also have some interfund debt service, which we have some adjustments that we're still getting completed for our fiscal year end. And so some of those have been taken care of, but there are still a few lingering. So those will be our audit adjustments, and we'll bring back our financial audit for the citywide in the future. So next slide. So specifically for the general fund, there we go. This is the primary fund for all of the city functions, including public works, parks, police, recreation, planning, community development, removing trees, financial management and budgeting, which is a part of the functions for the city council, city manager's office, and admin services department. So this table provides a summary of the comparative revenues and expenses for the fiscal year, compared both to budget as well as to the prior year. Unfortunately, I didn't grab the other adjusted slide, so this is the unadjusted revenues and expenses compared to the prior year as well to the budget. And within the report on packet page 111, or the report page number 3, there are some significant actions that we took last year, which were one-time transactions that were related to the unfunded pension liability refunding and the additional discretionary payment we made to CalPERS, as well as the one-time use of funds related to ARPA, which is the funding from the federal government. And within this detailed report, we kind of pulled out those differences and put them in the report. And when you adjust for those, we really are primarily on target, where our revenues are at 93.2% of budget, and it exactly matched our expenditures as a percentage of budget, where we were at the 93.2% of budget. So while our revenues didn't quite come in where we were wanting them to come in, we did make some adjustments for those at the end of the year, but our expenses also weren't as dramatic, or they came in under what we were expecting as well. Next slide, please. So in looking at the revenue sources for the general fund graphically, over 50% of our revenues are derived from the sales tax, and of which half of that sales tax is from our voter-approved Measure S funds. These revenue sources are vital to the improvements we're making to the city, but it also shows the imbalance of the funding sources and the need for continued economic development and revenue diversification as a continued strategic goal. This is just kind of a good way to see where all the revenues came in overall. Next slide, please. You can go ahead and jump to the next one. So we're going to move on to the water and wastewater enterprise funds. So along in the report packet page 114, or report page 6, this really provides the overall view of our water and wastewater or sewer revenues and expenses and how they are in line with budget. Unfortunately, revenues have decreased as budgeted from prior year due to the water conservation and continued rainfall, plus reduced connection fees for developments. The expenses likewise for the year are less due to the timing of projects, the decreased water usage, so we paid less for water, which is our biggest cost for our water fund, as well as the wastewater treatment. If there's less water coming in, there's less water getting treated, and this was all, in line with budget. And these decreases, though, were offset by the increases in other expenses, primarily the insurance, utilities like electricity. You don't think electricity when you think of water and sewer, but it is a big component of it, and contract services. Next slide. So lastly is our cash and investments. As you all know, we recently adopted an updated investment policy and enacted an active investment management group engaged with active investment management with Dave and Rob with Optimize Investment Partners. With that change, we've made some significant strides in diversifying our excess cash for investments, and thus have exceeded expectations on investments and income for the year. As you noted previously on slide 6, anyway, our income from investments grew to $192,000 in the general fund alone, compared to the prior year where we had $19,000. So, next slide. So our cash and investments as of June 30th, 2023 was approximately $24.4 million. This is in line with the city's adopted investment policy, so everything that we had invested was in line with the policy. In the 1.5 months that we've been doing this, as of 6/30, our investment strategy earned us approximately $102,000 in returns for the city. And so just making that move of the funds out of LAIF and very passive, unmanaged funds really to this more active management has really benefited the bottom line. So overall, cash is enough to meet the operational needs for at least the next 6 months in the fiscal year. Next slide. So here are the graphics of the cash to investment balances as allocated by fund, as well as by the investment type. These are significantly changed from the prior year's reports, which graphically, were almost all the same color because everything was in LAIF and or was in the general fund. A small part of it was in the, the general checking account, basically, our operations account. So now we have less than 1% in LAIF. We are keeping some small balance there so that if we do want to move funds over to it at any point in time, it's open and available, set up, and is incurring interest on what we have over there. We have U.S. Bank, which is the fund that holds all of our federal treasuries and CDs in laddered investments over the next 5 years, and that has 57% of that balance. 34% is held in CAMP, which is a liquid JPA investment program, and the remaining 9% is held in the city's operating general checking account. So overall, the fiscal year was on track with budget. It was, of course, a little bit of a decline from our increase that we had in 21-22. It would have been great if that continued, but we also didn't want COVID to continue as well. We want people to go on moving on with their lives and do great things. So there's no additional budget requests or adjustments at this time for the year, and we're looking to move forward with our financial audit and bringing that forward. We're going to continue to update the council with quarterly financial reports. Like I said, we're going to hopefully bring that first quarter to you in October, as well as a more detailed investment report again, so it'll be all brought back holistically. And then we're committed to exercising prudence and bringing all forth this information and our accountability and transparency for the use of these funds. Also, I want to point out, and there is a tentative schedule that was presented in the report that didn't make it in the slide deck, where we're already looking to our next budget year. So I know we just finished it. We just finished talking about it. But we're going to start scheduling out budget in early November. And then in late November, hope to bring the audited financial statements and reports. So this is a living, breathing thing that's constantly changing, and we want to make sure we're moving along with it. So I'll happy to take any questions. Questions? Yes.
I just have one quick question about the investments. I had kind of thought that with our investment advisor, we'd be doing a lot of diversification. So when I'm seeing this big pie chart chunk that's all in U.S. Bank, is that okay?
Yeah. So, and I don't know if Dave and Rob are on the line. I know they were going to participate, but I know it's been a little bit longer than planned. So they are diversified in that fund.
Okay.
So we have laddered CDs, and there we go, Dave. Laddered CDs and treasuries within that. So that's just kind of our holding account.
They're just
for those.
managing those
Correct.
investments for us. Okay,
They're literally
thank you.
holding what we told
That's
them to
what I
purchase.
thought.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Other questions? Did he want to say anything? Did he want to add anything? Nope. All righty then. Okay. So if there's no other questions, I know there's no action on this, we're just to receive it, but since it's our regular agenda, I will open this up for public comment. Anyone in the audience wishing to speak, you can raise your hand, jump up. I see our audience is not doing that, but how about our Zoom attendees?
Thank you, Mayor Harvey. Neil Hancock, you have the floor.
I'm sorry, I had it as a comment for the previous item. It was up, I was just pointing out that the water heater cost for the fee was $180, but when you move to the electric vehicle charging station for commercial, that is for multifamily, then it goes up to $516. So for our lower income residents, we charge twice the price. Anyway, I still had my hand up from last time. I apologize, I'll put it down.
Lori, you have the floor.
I had more of a general question. I noticed in one part it has revenue on the park and ride lot as coming in 22-23, but the parking lot replacements on airport and in Petaluma, they seem to be in the 23-24. So how is that dealing with our financial flow if we have $1 million that we're supposed to be paying for parking rides that are out of town when it was received the money was received the proceeds were received 1 year and the bill is coming the next year? So that's my question.
Thank you for your comments. Angela?
Yes, so those funds that were received for the sale of the property are being held in an escrow account. So those are not included within the cash that's actually reported here. So it is included within the revenue, and so that is why it is pulled out from this, because it is a one-time significant amount of revenue that was received for the sale, which did happen in the last fiscal year. The actual expenditure will be happening in 23-24, and so those would be the encumbrances that happen. And so that is just the mechanism of we had the sale of the property, and so it's being held in escrow, the cash, but the actual development and the expenditures will be happening subsequent.
Okay, thank you for that. Any other questions? All right, then we need no action on this. So we will move on to the next item, which is appointment of a voting delegate and alternate to the, I believe that's 2023, not 2022, League of California Cities Annual Conference.
Yes.
We already went to the 2022 and we already voted, so anyways. So Damien, are you going to take this one?
I will, yes. Yeah, so every year Cal Cities has a annual conference, and they request that any cities that attend nominate voting delegates, up to 2 voting delegates. It's been Cotati's history to typically nominate the mayor that year, potentially the vice mayor but at least the mayor as a voting delegate. And this year it's going to be in September 20th, 22nd in Sacramento. That's when the business meeting is, when they have the resolutions that they vote on. And this year is a little bit different. Normally, and at least in the recent past, they've also had specific resolutions that cities have put forth that we have ahead of time. In this case, that's not the case. So there will be some things to vote on, but nothing in advance at this point. So with that, I mean, just the recommendation is to nominate the voting delegates for this conference.
They still can do some resolutions, so we might still get some, so we might have to get direction.
Yeah, it'll be game time.
Yeah, it'll be game time, yeah.
I mean, in the past, you know, the whole council might have the opportunity to look at the resolution and even maybe weigh in on how they want their voting delegate to vote. This particular year, the Cal Cities is not, I guess it's just the quirk of the year, hasn't sent out any advanced resolutions because perhaps there's none that are available yet for cities to look at.
Because typically what happens is they get reviewed by the policy committees, and that would have happened in June, but I guess none came forward for the policy committees to look at to move forward. But that doesn't mean that a city, I mean, I've seen them happen right there, then and there. So anyways, questions?
Yeah, is this just for voting, or does it also have sessions like the one from before?
Yes, both. The voting usually happens on Friday, right towards the end of the meeting.
Okay, thank you.
And they also have the resolutions committee will usually meet before that, sometimes the afternoon before, but sometimes the morning of, because they have to go through the resolutions committee, and it sort of goes policy committee, and they make a yes or no recommendation, and then it goes to the resolution committee, and they make a yes or no, and then it goes to the floor, and it's a yes or no. So there's kind of levels that they have to go through.
But I guess I mean like sessions like they had before, like sort of
Educational
instructive sessions.
Mm-hmm. Yes, there are those too.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. Okay, then if there's no more questions, I'll open this up for public comment. Anyone in the audience wanting to jump up and talk on this? I'm seeing nobody jump up. Then we will open this up on Zoom attendees.
Speaking to the Zoom attendees, please use the raise hand icon to make a public comment. Mayor Harvey, that'll end public comment.
Okay, then I will bring it back, and we will need recommendations so that we can fill out this form, and it has to be completed and sent to them no later than Monday, August 28th. Or we won't have a voting delegate. Yes, Ben?
So it's one voting delegate and up to 2 alternates, right?
Correct.
Okay. Well, if the mayor is going to the conference, I would nominate Mayor Harvey to be our voting delegate.
Okay.
If she is willing to accept the nomination.
I am willing. And alternate?
Is any other council member intending to go to the conference?
I would really like to go to attend the sessions to learn. I don't necessarily need to vote, but I would very much like to go to the, to learn to be a better council member.
Well, how about if I nominate Damien to be the alternate for voting purposes while you work out whether you can go to the conference? That sound good? So.
Yes, and just for clarity, it can be a city manager.
Yes.
Just.
That's great. I don't need to vote. I really I just want to learn.
Yeah.
We might as, if we are only nominating one alternate,
right,
and she thinks she might want to go, might as well.
Yeah.
Good point.
That works too. Yeah, we can do 2.
Nominate the both of you as alternates. Then.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Fair enough.
That way, if you.
But they only hand out one thing. So it's kind of funny if someone has to leave, then you have to go to the booth and re-sign.
I'm not going to fight you for it,
little
Amy.
card over, and it's an interesting process. So okay. We have a motion Do we have a second? Oh, then I'll do public comment.
Second?
I forgot to do public comment, or did I do public comment? I did. Okay. God, it's getting late. So I have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye.
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 Any noes? Any abstains? So that passes unanimously. I must be getting tired.
So quick question. So that's for all three of us, or is that for two of us? What, I don't, for the conference? It was for all three?
Me as the primary and you two
And
as
us as
alternates.
alternates. Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay, so I guess you're on, Damien.
All right, so since we're already talking about Cal Cities, I will just mention, if you all haven't been hearing about it, Cal Cities has been very busy with its ACA 13, which is, it's being put forward by Assemblymember Ward, and it's called the Protect and Retain the Majority Vote Act. It's a constitutional amendment coming out of the Assembly. Anyway, it's working its way through the committees. It's a very high priority of the League, as well as a lot of the League's partners, and the Association of Counties, too. So this is in response to the Business Roundtable initiative next year. So basically, if this actually makes its way through and out of the Assembly and then gets ultimately signed by the governor, it would require a two-thirds vote, basically, to change the vote thresholds. So if the Business Roundtable measure goes forward, it can't be a simple majority to change everything, which is what's on the table right now. So anyway, this is the Cal Cities has been putting a lot of effort into this. I'm sure there'll be some discussion about this in September at the annual conference. But just letting the council know that this is winding its way through the Assembly committees right now, and there seems to be a significant amount of momentum to put it into place and have it law before elections next year. Okay, so we are going to be having an evacuation drill on September 20th at 4 p.m. Our police department is working with Roanoke Park Public Safety as well as Sonoma State University, and this is going to include our high-low sirens in the neighborhoods. So I'm just telling you all now, but we're going to be starting to put out some significant amount of public information, letting people know about this. So that's coming up very soon. The Park and Ride project that was described earlier, that one is in contract, and it should be. We haven't officially kicked off the project yet, but it'll be moving forward soon. The pavement maintenance project, this is the slurry crack seal project, bids open today. So I expect that the council will be seeing that in a very near council meeting. As I mentioned earlier, in terms of other road projects, Redwood Drive and Cypress Avenue are significant reconstruction projects, partially grant funded. Those are going to be going out to bid this winter, with construction start expected in the spring of next year. Ahead of that is the Cypress Sewer rehabilitation, which should be ready to go out to bid soon as well. So that's going to be in advance of the Cypress paving for obvious reasons. The Cotati Hotel is still moving along. They've been a bit, work has slowed down a bit on site recently, but we do expect them to start working on some utilities soon out there in the field. And then I think the first thing that they're going to be trying to achieve is constructions of the building pads for both of the buildings, the hotel and the marketplace, so that they have, so they can continue to work through the winter. Last night at the Planning Commission, we did kick off the Santero Way specific plan rezoning project, and the commission gave staff some good direction and was very appreciative of the robust public engagement planning process that we have for that effort. And just one thing to let you know about is part of this process will include a community advisory council that will be set up specifically for this plan update or rezoning project, whatever path it ends up taking. And if anyone in the community is interested in serving on this committee, please reach out to community development and express your interest, and we can make sure that you're in the mix for those conversations when that committee gets formed. And in the very short term, staff does plan to attend the farmers market on August 30th and also in September to sort of start some of the public conversation beyond just the Planning Commission. So there's going to be a lot of engagement related to this. And fortunately, we have, as the council knows, we have a grant that we got for this work, which allows us to do a lot of this robust engagement, which is a good thing. This Friday and Saturday, North Bay Theatrics Children's Theater Program will be performing A Midsummer's Night's Dream in La Plaza Park at 7 p.m. each day. And it's free to come, so come on down and you can watch the show and bring a picnic and enjoy the public Wi-Fi that's down there now. So we're still doing beta testing. The Accordion Festival was a great test of it, so we're going to be going through the data of the devices and see how it held up and see if we have to make any adjustments. But it seems to be good so far. This Saturday, we also have our first backyard bird workshop at 1 p.m. at the Verona Flitti Ranch across the street. It's hosted by our partner, Sandy Loam, and it's a family-friendly event. It includes a lesson on local birds, art projects, and more. So that's coming up this Saturday. Farmers Market, of course, just as a reminder, is every Wednesday, 4:30 to 7:30 through the end of September. Lots of great stuff there. Saturday, September 16th, we'll be having our second Putnam Park and Civic Center Park Community Workshop here at City Hall at 1 p.m. It is a Saturday. If you can't attend in person, we also do have a Zoom option for people that want to attend that. And so in the first workshop, it was only the 2019 capital plan concepts, and we just got people's input on that, as well as in parallel the surveys, which we had a Survey Monkey going, which just recently closed. And so we're putting all that information together, all that feedback together, and we will be at this workshop in September showing some potential concepts based on that workshop, or based on the earlier workshop plus the survey results, and see what people think, and hopefully get start solidifying some direction on the design of the parks. And then finally, we are getting ready for fall classes with some new additions coming your way, including youth soccer, children's piano, Falun Gong free meditation classes, and more. We also, of course, have Zumba Gold, 5 days a week, Zumba Fitness, children's ballet, pre-ballet, youth theater, children's gymnastics, and Aikido. So I'll just stop there, but I'd be happy to answer any questions if the council has any.
Yes.
Thank you. 2 questions. What about the Community Advisory Council? Do you have any more specifics, like how many people are you looking for? What's the timeline going to be for that? And what kind of time commitment is required for the folks who participate?
Yeah, so none of those are, I don't have specific answers on those yet. The grant has very specific criteria. A lot of the information is included in the Planning Commission item that was presented.
Okay.
I'm happy to look at it and send you a quick email so you have that information. I'll send that out to all the council members in case you get people inquiring.
That'd be great, because then we can, know what we're asking for when we ask people to participate.
The goal would be that it's not too onerous of a time commitment.
Okay.
We'll start there.
Thank you. And then second question was about the public input for Helen Putnam Park. Is the contractor reaching out directly to the Laguna Foundation for input?
Yeah, that was one of our commitments, is that they would be working with them as well.
Have they done that already? Because I would hate for it to get all the way down the road and then they just ask for comments at the end from them. I'm thinking like right now is kind of the right time to reach out to them.
No, that's absolutely my expectation.
Okay.
That conversation will have occurred before the second workshop.
Okay.
I just don't know if today they've actually reached out to him yet.
Okay.
But, yeah.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you.
Other questions? All right. Then we will move on. Our next item is City Council member reports. Start over here, Sylvia.
I went to the Accordion Festival on Saturday. I took my parents and I used public Wi-Fi. So it worked great, even with all the people there. So it was a nice day, nice music and lots of booths. There were so many food vendors and other vendors, so it was a pretty busy and fun time. That's all I have.
Ben? Laura?
Just one thing, I'll be attending the Continuum of Care Board meeting tomorrow, so I will have more to report next time.
So I went to the Library Advisory Board, and they talked, there's a bunch of really great things going on. The one that seemed the most fun, or I don't know, the Team Film Festival is going to be August 31st, and they said they only had 5 submissions this time, so it should be brief. And they talked about potentially having the kids come out and like do it in Q&A since they're going to have so much extra time. So I'm actually really hoping they do that because I think that'd be pretty cool. I also went to the 2x2x2, which is the Roanoke Park Cotati School District, also with Sonoma State and Roanoke Park City Council and our City Council. And they talked to, I actually have some potential great resources for Cotati Library to speak with you about later, Damien. And then I also went to the Slavery in Sonoma County. An Untold Story was a lecture event at, it was a history project by Sonoma State University and in collaboration with NAACP. Super fascinating at Santa Rosa Central Library. And they did record it, so I would encourage people to watch that if that's an area of interest for you. Really very interesting. And it is ongoing. This was kind of like an update of what they've done so far, but there's a lot more to do. And lots of volunteer opportunities as well. So if you want to help in that research, they're looking for help. And then finally, I also did attend, I volunteered at the Accordion Festival, and it was, yeah, the music was great, and the people all seemed in a great mood, and the food was really good too. I was, I guess my bar is kind of low for like, truck food, but it was actually really good. So yeah, very much appreciated all the work that went into it, and it was really a great time. I was there on Sunday.
Okay, I guess that just leaves me. So on 8/12, I attended the park workshop. I sat in my little corner and didn't say anything. It was really well attended. I counted over 30 people here, so it was really good, good feedback, good information. So I know the consultants were busy taking information down on that. So in addition to that, I've been taking flyers out to the parks every single day. I go at least once a day, and I've connected up with, like at least 30 people going out there and making sure that that they have opportunity. Some I was able to get before the survey closed. Others poor Ashley, I've said, well, here's Ashley's email address. Your comments and concerns can be done here, and encouraging people to come to the September meeting. So that's been pretty good. I've had really great conversations with folks on that. So we'll see what happens. If we can get more people, that's great. On the 10th, I attended mayors and council members, as did Councilmember Ford with me, yes. It was great. They had it at their senior center, and they had a senior center. It was built, I want to say 30 years ago, but the community built it. So over 30 years ago, they spent, over $1 million, and they were saying that, now if they had to build it, they probably couldn't, but it was pretty nice. Yeah, it was nice. And we got presentations from Cecilia Aguilar, one of her representatives about ACA 1, so that was pretty good. And then we had a presentation by the Bay Area Housing Finance Authority about, bond measure that they're going to be trying to put on the ballot. That was interesting. And then we received a presentation from Sandra Lowe, who is on Sonoma Council, about kind of polling that's been done on housing stuff. And apparently there's been pretty good polling, from folks in the state. So that's encouraging, because a lot of the polling that's coming back on a lot of things is not polling very well, so that was good that housing stuff was on there. At Zero Waste Sonoma, as I said before, we passed a model ordinance for building materials, deconstruction, reuse, and recycling, and they will be working with our staff to kind of move that forward. That was the big deal there. I attended the Cotati Park ribbon cutting. I thought that was very well attended, and thank you, staff. You guys did an awesome job. It was a beautiful day, and that was really great. I also volunteered at the Accordion Festival on Sunday, and they tell me that it was busier on Saturday than it was on Sunday, but it was pretty darn crowded when I was there most of the afternoon on Sunday, so that was great. And last but not least, tomorrow I'm going to go to Sacramento with a bunch of folks from the North Bay Division, and we'll be talking to some of the representatives about some of these things like ACA 1 and some of the other things to see where they're at on some of these bills. So that I think we have 6 meetings set up, although they change and the times change and all of that, but Nancy's been able to get us set up with 6 meetings with our representatives. So bright and early we'll be up in Sacramento doing that. So that's all I have.
I neglected to mention, they also said that the Bibliobus, that they're starting to have a regular schedule for it, and they're planning to have once a month, apparently. It will be stopping in Cotati, and I did just check, because last week they said it would be out this week, and it's not out yet. So hopefully we'll get that out soon, and we'll work on getting them here more than once a month.
Seems like it should be once a week, but that's just me. So if we're done with council member reports, we can move on public comment on non-action agenda items. Anyone in the public wanting to speak on this? Not seeing anybody jump up. All right, so Zoom attendees?
Yes, we do have one hand from the Zoom attendees. Lori, you have the floor.
This is related to the Planning Commission meeting. There's no audio or video up on it, so I have no idea what happened with the last night. And this has been a problem that we're getting last-minute Zoom cancellations, last-minute cancellations on like the Planning Commission before. So I just want to know what's going on as far as video and Zoom access and all that. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Anyone else? No?
That was the last hand, Mayor Harvey. That'll end public comment.
Okay, could staff address that concern about the Planning Commission since I wasn't there?
So on Planning Commission, there'll be minutes that are the official record of the meeting. So there's that, right? In terms of the technical stuff, we should be through the technical issues that happened at that cropped back up at Planning Commission. It was really just a random thing that we figured out today and addressed it, obviously, because we're having a meeting that's fully broadcast.
Okay, yes.
Just a question. So was there no video recording available to watch? There won't be one for the Planning Commission?
Not for that one. So the prior one that we had an issue with, we were able to record the video on and post it later. In this case, that's not the case.
Is there a way in the future that we could, if that happens, we could set up a camcorder or something? Because our minutes are action minutes with very little information. So, I mean, I would have liked to be able to watch the Planning Commission meeting.
Yeah, we don't have a device that can record that. Well, I don't know. It would take some thinking about how we could, because it's a lot of video and the files are huge. So to set it up in the last minute, I don't know. But I know it's possible. It's just, it would take some thinking as to how to do that. And it shouldn't happen again. Hopefully not my famous last words.
And Mr. Bacher, is that a requirement?
It is not. We do that, the video and virtual, as a courtesy. Obviously, it's staff's intention to make sure that all works. But the meetings are from a Brown Act standpoint, are in-person meetings, and so long as that we're able to provide an opportunity for the public to participate in the meetings in person, we satisfy the Brown Act obligations.
And it was my understanding that there was a notice on the Zoom that said that there was issue. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. Sylvia?
Yeah, I was just going to ask if there was a way of having a Zoom with a computer facing this way and then using I think it's OCR, you can upload it to YouTube. Do we have a YouTube channel that we can upload it to? So I think when I was at the county, we used to do webinars that way, where we could use Zoom through OCR to YouTube, and it would be live on YouTube. So I'm sure wondering, and OCR I think is free. It's free online. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, the issue is that if it's just a small table with a couple people around it, that's easy to do, but when you have a chamber with it, I just, without testing some possible options, making sure the audio is actually, you can hear the audio, and it has the potential to be a really bad recording. So if we're going to put something out in video, it needs to be actually usable, from an audio standpoint. All this is saying that there is a solution if we really want to think about that. But my goal is to never have it happen again. So we won't even have to address it that way.
Just as a backup plan, I'm wondering if, I think Paul Gullickson at the County Communications might have staff that knows how to, that can maybe give us some ideas or something. Because I know that they used to do that.
Or even if it was just written notes of, notes about the meeting that were a little more extensive than our action minutes, just as an absolute backup plan. Because we basically now have no record of.
We've been talking about, in this instance, which to the city manager's point, hopefully we don't have to address into the future, but we've been talking about, for this instance, trying to do more detailed notes as a method to address the concern.
Okay, is that all the questions, comments? Then we will move. Huh?
Just not about that, but I found a date. Can I share it? Okay. So just for the bibliobus, I did not, it was one more page further. So for those of us who work, this is an unfortunate time, but it looks like September 14th is going to be the next one. It's the second Thursday of every month at Charles Street Village. They'll be here from 1:30 to 2:30. So the second Thursdays of every month, 1:30 to 2:30 at Charles Street Village. The bibliobus will be here in Cotati.
Okay, great, thanks. All right, so next item is closed session, which is conference with real property negotiator pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.8. Property is APN 144-274-002, 144-274-014, and 144-274-015. City negotiators, city manager, negotiating party, bishop, revocable trust under negotiation, price and terms of payment for the sale of property. So with that, we will be going to closed session, and we'll report what we know when we come back. We need Kevin. There we go. Okay, we are back from closed session and we do not have anything to report out. So I will call this meeting adjourned at 9:47. Thank you very much, everyone.